Which team will win the NFC North in 2023? What's going on, BLV? It's Mitch here with my NFC North preview and my record predictions for each team in the NFC North for 2023. Who will surprise? Who will disappoint? My full breakdown, the depth charts, the rosters, the strengths, the weaknesses, and more in this video, breaking down the Lions, the Vikings, the Bears, and the Green Bay Packers for this 2023 NFL season. How many teams will make the playoffs? And ultimately, who will win and be crowned the kings of the North? Gronk, spike that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. And let's get to our NFC North preview. Guys, if you haven't already subscribed, make sure that you do. I'm previewing every single NFL division before the kickoff of the NFL season, which actually features an NFC North team. But the NFC North is interesting to me this year because it's a much different division this year. For one big reason. Aaron Rodgers is gone. The man that has ruled the NFC North for years, it feels like, is now gone. And that opens up opportunity for Kirk Cousins to officially be named the man within this division. Opportunity for a young quarterback like Justin Fields to take hold of a division that's wide open. Opportunity for a culture to rise and reign supreme in the NFC North, one like the Detroit Lions. Or maybe, just maybe, Jordan Love is the next great Green Bay Packer quarterback. The NFC North is going to be fun, man. And I could see this division sending two teams to the playoffs this year. Let's begin the team breakdowns with the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears' expectations in 2023 are simple. Don't be the worst team in the NFL. That's exactly what they were last year. But actually, I believe that the Bears have pretty big expectations, pretty high expectations for a team that was really bad last year. And it's for obvious reasons. They traded for DJ Moore. They're excited with what they've seen from Justin Fields. The fan base believes they actually have a quarterback. They added multiple pieces to the defense, including two linebackers, Tremaine Edmonds, TJ Edwards. They just signed up Yannick Ngakoue not too long ago. The offensive line is new, fresh, and hopefully improved. So this team has done a lot to hopefully put themselves in a position where they can take the league by storm and surprise the NFC North. Now, personally, I'm not the biggest fan of this team this year. I'm not as high on this team as some people. For a lot of people, this is a breakout team in the NFC. For me, I don't think they've done enough to state that claim. I don't know if the offensive line is truly going to be so much better. Now, I will say, the offensive line on paper is better. The defense on paper is better. But how much better is the question. And then the biggest reason I don't feel the Bears will be a breakout team, I'm not with everyone else when it comes to Justin Fields. I haven't seen it. In terms of a passing pocket player, Justin Fields has not been impressive to me. Is he a great athlete? Absolutely. Is he a human highlight reel with one of the best highlight tapes in football? No doubt. Is he a consistent winning quarterback that plays a winning brand of football? I don't think so. And Bears fans, I get it. You've never really seen what that looks like. So it's hard for you to judge. Personally, I feel like I know what that looks like. And I don't think it's Justin Fields. Not saying he can prove me wrong, but let's take a look at these rankings for the Chicago Bears and see if he has enough help around him to actually prove me wrong this year. So, let's begin with Fields. I ranked him number 26 entering the season at quarterback. Some people might have him in the top 20. I've seen people have him as high as the top 15. But I do think there are others out there that stand with me. They don't see the consistency as a passer. They see inaccuracies. They see the tendency to hold on to the football and take way too many sacks. And also, a lot of fumbles. Again, a guy that's tough to figure out because he's a dynamic athlete that forces you to defend every blade of grass when it comes to the running game. And he will elevate the Bears' running game once again this year. But does that mean he's a good quarterback? I don't necessarily know. Last year, we didn't get those answers. We're still waiting, in my opinion. Same could be said about their coach, Matt Eberflus. I need to see more. There were impressive moments, like against my Patriots on Monday Night Football. I thought he had a great game plan on both sides of the ball, and he whooped Belichick's behind. I will say that much. There were other aspects like evolving the offense to actually fit Justin Fields, whether or not that was Eberflus or not. I guess I don't really know. But he has something to do with it. He is the head coach. I think at times the defense played better than the talent would suggest. He is a defensive coach. His defensive scheme is simple but effective. He seems to teach the fundamentals pretty well. And he definitely wants to have a tough, gritty style for his Chicago Bears. The offensive line, number 14, I ranked them very high entering this year. And it's because I like the players they signed up. I like the individual talent. But the question about an offensive line isn't about individuals, it's about a group. Can they come together and form a good starting five for this team? I like Nate Davis a lot coming from the Titans. I've been a fan of Whitehair. I think Tevin Jenkins had a nice year last year. He's, I believe, a little injured right now. I think the young left tackle showed some promise last year. And I was a big fan of their first round pick, Darnell Wright. I thought he was maybe the best tackle in the draft. He was at least in the conversation. So when I look at what they did this offseason to improve that line, and I look across the NFL, there's not many lines that have had that much money, that many high draft picks installed into their line. They have talent. It's a matter of getting it to play together. The offense rank I have at 22. A tricky situation with this offense. Can they figure out the passing game? Can Justin Fields be consistent enough in the pocket to provide a drop back passing game for this team? We know that he can run. We know that they're going to be able to run the ball. They were very good at that last year. But can they have a consistent passing game? I think it will be inconsistent, but I think it will be explosive. So trying to find where that lands for me, I landed at 22. I could see them being probably still below average, but probably like flirting with that 16, 15 range. I could see them being that good potentially. But I don't know if they can reach top 10, top 12 status with the current roster they have. Roster rank I have at number 28. A lot of young players that got to prove themselves. Defense still lacking quite a few pieces, especially on the D-line. The secondary is still a little weak in my opinion, although there are a lot of young players that can prove me wrong there. Secondary I have at 27. Defensive line I had at 31. Now this was before Yannick Ngakoue signed, but I don't think that would really change their ranking overall. I don't think he's a big enough piece to change that ranking. That being said, he will be their best pass rusher on the roster. Defense rank I have at 28. Last year they were one of the worst defenses in football. Let's take a look at the offensive side of the ball. I think that all the pieces are here for Justin Fields to prove himself this year. He has a trio of receivers that, in my opinion, are pretty solid. DJ Moore is a number one in this league. Is he an elite guy? I would say no. Is he a good player? Yes, absolutely. And I thought it was a really nice piece to get in that trade for the Carolina Panthers. Like, that is the type of receiver that Fields needed to potentially see if he can take that next step as a passer. And they got him his guy. So far, so good in the preseason. Darnell Mooney, he has had a 1,000-yard season, if I'm not mistaken. Last year, him and Fields were not on the same page. He was not clicking as the number one guy. I think he'll benefit being more of a number two. Great speed, good vertical ability. Chase Claypool, wicked athlete. Not the smartest kid around. He's very inconsistent. Big body that struggles to separate at times. But I think overall you've got a smaller, faster guy in Mooney, a bigger guy in Claypool, and the number one guy in DJ Moore. That's a decent room in my opinion. You've also got decent depth behind that. Cole Kmet's a solid tight end. Not a dynamic athlete, but he's good all around, can block, can catch. Had a pretty good season last year. Offensive line, I think the X factor here is probably the left side. Jones and Jenkins, two guys that are younger players. Can they ascend? Can they hold down that left side of the line? I think Darnell Wright will have his bumps in the road as a rookie, but I think that he will prove to be a good pick. Nate Davis is a beast in the run game. Whitehair is a solid pro. It's going to come down to those young players. Can they provide Justin Fields enough time? Because we know that Fields needs time to produce because he's a guy that likes to hold on to that ball. Khalil Herbert is an explosive, efficient running back that I think could have a big year this year. Super effective when he's gotten the opportunities. Roshan Johnson, I expect to be the number 2 coming out of Texas. Big running back. Big. Got a lot of size and actually a really smooth receiver as well. Brings power to this backfield. Forms a nice tandem with Herbert. I believe Foreman will also be on the roster unless he is released, but I think he'll be somewhere between the 2 or the 3 on this roster. I'm a big fan of Foreman, though. When they signed him, I really liked the signing, and I also believe he's a guy that brings size, power, and a bit of punch to this backfield. So I like the way it looks on paper, the offense. It's a matter of the young offensive lineman. It's a matter of Fields finding his way as a passer, and it's a matter of how that receiving core clicks and stays on the field. Defensively, this is where we run into some problems. Like, I could see Chicago being a fun offensive team that scores plenty of points and moves the ball, but I think the defense is going to be very inconsistent. I like the safety duo a lot. I think Eddie Jackson and Jaquan Brisker are probably one of the, at least top 10 safety duos in football. This is being conservative off the top of my head. But I believe they have the potential to be a top 5, top 3 safety duo this year if they both play at their absolute peak. I thought Brisker played very well as a rookie. Better in coverage than I would have expected, but I was a big fan of him coming out of the draft. Eddie Jackson had one of his best years of his career last year. And then on top of that, you've got a very good linebacker duo, probably a top 3 linebacker duo in the NFL right there. Top 3 to top 5, Edwards and Edmonds. Edmonds had an absolutely outstanding season last year for Buffalo. They're expecting him to be a difference maker at the second level. We'll see what Stevenson looks like as a rookie on the perimeter of this defense. It's hard to trust a non-first round rookie corner to produce from day one. It's a tough job. It's a tough task. But hey, man, they need that help at cornerback. We'll see what Jalen Johnson can do. He's been a roller coaster throughout his career. At times, looked pretty good. At other times, been burnt like toast. Gordon was not very good last year in his rookie season. Gave up one of the highest passer ratings in the NFL. Can he do better in year 2 as, I believe, a second-round pick a year ago? They signed Walker from the Titans after a career year last year, a hybrid defensive lineman, defensive end guy. He will hold down that strong side of the defensive line for Matt Eberflus. Yannick Ngakoue will play the weak side as the run-the-loop pass rusher, where he's going to be free to get to the quarterback. Walker will be holding that other side of the line. And then you got Billings and Jones on the inside. This is one of the weakest interior defensive lines and overall defensive lines in football. I think they're going to struggle to stop the run because I think their defensive line is not the most stout against the run in terms of individual talents. And then I also believe that the pass rush is just going to be non-existent at times. There's going to be games where they just can't get any pressure unless they blitz. And I think that's going to put their young secondary in jeopardy of getting burnt. So I just feel like the Bears are in a tough spot defensively. Again, I feel like offensively could be pretty fun, could be pretty interesting and intriguing to watch from week to week to see how Justin Fields can get it done and how they're able to run the ball in so many different creative ways. And then with DJ Moore there, we know he's an electric playmaker, but I just feel like the defense is going to give up a lot of points, a lot of yards, and a lot of possession time to the opponent. So it's important that the Bears offense doesn't turn the ball over, doesn't take big sacks in these games to force punts and ruin drives. If Justin Fields can be a better game manager this year and they can run the ball and they can keep defenses tired and they can keep the other offenses off the field, they've got a chance to play in a lot of games. That's going to come from the coaching level, and that's going to have to be performed by Fields and company. Looking at what I have for their projection, their prediction for 2023, I have them winning 6 games and going 6-11. I think this team is still incomplete. I just don't think they're all the way there yet. Maybe next year with one more offseason, they could be a lot closer. I have my questions still about Fields as a passer at the NFL level. I have big-time questions about the defensive and offensive lines, and especially the defensive line. And I have too many questions about the defense being kind of lousy for me to say that they're going to be like a 9-8, 10-7 improved type of team that competes for a playoff spot. Is it possible? Yes. As I put, their ceiling is possible at 10 wins where Justin Fields breaks out as a breakout quarterback. Their offense, like I said, has a lot of weaponry and a lot of talent. And if Fields plays really well, they could be tough to stop. Defensively, though, maybe those young players take a step forward. Maybe some players that I don't see coming prove me wrong. And that could be the case for the ceiling prediction. The floor, 3-14, they're just basically as bad as last year. Fields is lousy as a passer, takes too many sacks, doesn't progress. The DJ Moore thing doesn't work out. And defenses figure out how to confuse and how to get after Justin Fields and how to limit him in the run game. Offensively, for other teams, they're able to run the ball, keep possession, force the Bears to come from behind and win games through their drop-back passing game, which is obviously their weakness. If I were to bet the over-under, I'd definitely bet the under. I think this is a good bet if you're going to take it. Now, Bears fans will disagree, but that's my prediction for the Bears, man. Starting off this video and this NFC North preview a little negative, but hey, man, that's just how I feel. I don't think the Bears will be a very good team this year. They could prove me wrong. I'm open to it. I don't necessarily want to hate on the Bears. I don't have any reason to. It's just what I feel like. I just don't think they're that good. Moving to the next team, we have the Minnesota Vikings, a team that somehow, some way, won this division in kind of a landslide last year, dominated the regular season in terms of victories, won 8 games via fourth quarter comeback last year. One of the flukiest teams I've ever seen in my lifetime as a football fan, and probably the worst 13-win team I've ever seen. Not gonna lie. Probably the worst. I mean, I picked the Giants to beat them in the playoffs. When does that happen? When do you pick a 9-win team to beat a 13-win team in a playoff game at home? I mean, that's just crazy. So, the Minnesota Vikings, they were a lot worse than their record indicated last year. As Bill Parcells usually says, your record says what you are, but not necessarily with the Vikings, right? Their record didn't really indicate who they were. It indicated a fraud. It indicated a version that was extremely fortunate and lucky. They were fortunate in terms of big-time plays, great quarterback play, great Justin Jefferson play, and a bounce of the ball a few different times. But the Minnesota Vikings' expectations this year are very low for a team that did make the playoffs and did win the NFC North last season. Almost everyone is counting them out to win this division this year. Almost everyone is saying they won't make the playoffs again. Almost everyone is counting out Kirk Cousins and his team. Is that correct? I lean towards it probably does make the most sense. I think people are right. But at the same time, is Cousins not the best quarterback in this division? He is. He is. Is Justin Jefferson not the best player in this division? He definitely is. Is this the best offense in the division? It has a chance to be. Maybe most people would maybe go with Detroit. But I feel like the Vikings are right there. They added Jordan Addison. They have a pretty good offensive line. They have TJ Hawkinson, right? Yeah, they lost Dalvin Cook, but we know what Alexander Mattison can do. So with a good offense, I don't care what your defense is like. In a kind of a shaky division, you have a chance to win this division. So the Vikings' expectations are a team that's in transition, a team that wants to get younger, a team that's trying to get rid of their older pieces, a team that understood that they weren't actually as good as their record suggested last year. The front office clearly understood that through the offseason and the free agency that they had. And I credit them for that. I give them a round of applause for that, because a lot of teams would look at what they did last year, the record they had last year, and decide to go even more all in, and it would probably result in them falling on their faces. But Minnesota actually looked at it a little bit differently. They said, you know what? We're not actually that good. We need to reevaluate here. We need to get younger. We need to change. We need to get faster on defense. We need a new defensive coordinator. And they did all these things. So that's good to see. Now, where do they rank entering this season across the board? At quarterback, I have them at number 9. That's Kirk Cousins. I think Cousins is an elite quarterback in terms of top 10. Is he like one of the 3 to 5 best? No. But I do feel like he's a guy that can win you games in the fourth quarter. He can lead you to victories. We saw that last year. He proved that last year. He's deadly accurate. He's calm in the pocket. He's willing to take hits to make throws. And I felt like he had one of his best overall seasons of his career last year. That being said, is Cousins also a little bit a result of what's around him at times? Absolutely. Does he get a little bit robotic at times? Absolutely. Can he have a down year this year? Absolutely. We've seen it before. The coach, Kevin O'Connell, young guy that showed a lot of promise in year one, especially offensively. Love his timely play calling last season. At number 21, O'Connell just needs to prove a little bit more to me. Offensive line at number 18. They're not bad. They're not great. I do like the tackle duo. I think the guards can improve, especially Ingram. But the offensive line isn't a nuisance. The offense I had at number 15. There were times they were a really good offense. There were other times where they went into a slump and they couldn't find their way out. There were games where they were super explosive but inconsistent. They would punt a lot. They wouldn't possess the ball a lot, but then one drive, they would go for 4 plays and a touchdown. The next drive, they would go 6 plays and a touchdown. They were very inconsistent. They were all over the map from an offensive standpoint. So it's tough to rely on them, but at the same time, they can be explosive. They can be tough to stop, tough to handle in key situations. The roster ranked number 24. I think it's an underwhelming defensive roster especially. The secondary, number 30. A lot of unproven, unknown players at cornerback this year. Defensive line, number 21. I like the combination of Davenport and Danielle Hunter. Harrison Phillips is a good player. But it doesn't wow me, the defensive line. The defense I have at number 29, which I felt like they might have been the worst defense in football last year. So 29 would actually be an improvement. A big reason for that is Brian Flores coming to town, a coordinator that I very much know and very much like. Moving on to the offensive depth chart, you've got an offensive line with Darisaw and O'Neal at tackle, one of the best tackle duos in football. Jefferson and Hawkinson will lead this team in catches. Jordan Addison is expected to take Adam Thielen's spot and produce at a high level as a rookie. Osborne's not a bad number 3 receiver. You got Madison and Chandler at running back. I think Chandler is somebody that will surprise. I think he will get more work, more carries than people are actually expecting. You got Bradbury at center, who's kind of been underwhelming. I was a little bit surprised that he's back on the team. Cleveland's a good left guard. Ingram had a lousy season last year. I think he was one of the worst pass protectors in all of football last season. He needs to improve as a second-round pick from a year ago. The defense. I don't love a lot about this defense. I will say I think the defensive line is a little underrated. Davenport, Phillips, Hunter being the stars there. Byron Murphy comes to town to basically replace Patrick Peterson, but he's going to play more in the nickel spot you would project. Blackman and Evans are both complete wild cards and unknowns, which gives me a lot of worry. They don't have a great linebacking depth situation. Underneath or besides Jordan Hicks, they don't have much, at least much in terms of proven commodities. Harrison Smith is getting older, slower. You worry about him a little bit, but he was still good last season. Still a top 32 safety in football. Bynum was, okay. He played a lot last year. He has moments, but I felt like he gave up way too many big plays and touchdowns in crucial moments last year, and I'd like to see more play from Lewis Seen, the rookie out of Georgia last year who lost his season to a major injury. He's expected to be back for the Vikings, so I'd expect him to get some play as well. Maybe replacing Bynum in the starting lineup. So that's the offense, the defense. Kind of like the Bears, I view the Vikings as a team that has a pretty darn good offense, an offense that I could project to see scoring a lot of points, moving the football on the ground or through the air, and one that has the best quarterback wide receiver combo in this division. A dynamic combination that can win them any game. If they're hot, Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson, look out. They can win 10 games if they go on a streak. And they're really tough to stop. You add in Jordan Addison, you add in TJ Hawkinson, and you have potentially a pretty dangerous offense. But the defense is so far away. There are issues with the offensive line. Alexander Mattison is not Dalvin Cook. I do feel they're going to be a little bit less so on the balance offensively because their defense is going to be aggressive. They're going to give up plays. They're also going to try to make plays. So they're going to sacrifice giving up big plays to opponents, which is going to lead to potentially being down in games, having to throw the ball and come back. And throughout his career, Cousins, last year was really good. At other times hasn't been great. I think the Vikings are a pretty average team this year. I don't see them being nearly as productive from a win standpoint as they were last year. I think they're going to win 7 games. I contemplated 8 to make them 8-9, but I see 7-10. I think they're going to finish 3rd in this division. My ceiling is 11-6, where their offense is one of the best in football, and their defense gets enough out of Brian Flores to make it competent and not a complete disaster. The floor is 5-12. I could see the offensive line being a regression candidate. I could see Madison not giving the same punch and balance to the running game. I could see Cousins regressing in terms of those fourth quarter clutch drives that result in more losses at the end of games. And the defense could just be flat out lousy, which results in a 5-12 record. If I were to bet the Vikings, I would definitely bet the under 8.5. I think that's a pretty good bet. So the Vikings I have as the 3rd place team in the NFC North. The 2nd place team in the NFC North, I have the Green Bay Packers. Yes, I do. I think the Green Bay Packers are being slept on entering 2023. And I think a big reason for it is there's a lot of people that love them some Aaron Rodgers. And they forget the fact that Aaron Rodgers was not very good last year. Did not play well last year. Yeah, I get it. He's Aaron Rodgers. He's a Hall of Famer. He's one of the GOATs of all time. But man, I think a team that has a chip on its shoulder, that understands what their identity is, that understands to play together, a quarterback that will play through the system. I think this team could be better than they were last year, and I wouldn't be surprised. Now, I would also not be surprised if they were one of the worst teams in the NFC. But the reason I believe in the Packers is I think there's camaraderie. I think these boys will come together and play well together post Aaron Rodgers. I really am impressed by Jordan Love. I believe he is a guy. I believe he is a franchise quarterback. I, quite frankly, believe Jordan Love will outplay Justin Fields this year. I do. They always have a good offensive line. They always can run the football. The defense has super talent everywhere, especially in the front seven. And Christian Watson is about to be a superstar. So when I break down the Packers, I see a team that's going to surprise a lot of people. A lot of people are going to take them lightly, and they're going to surprise. Let's take a look at their rankings entering this year. At quarterback, I have Jordan Love at number 25 for obvious reasons. He's barely played in the NFL as a true starting quarterback. There's only so much I can go off of. There's only so much preseason tape that can confirm whether I believe he's good or bad. I believe he's good, but I can't rank him inside the top 20 without actually seeing it for a full regular season. I think Matt LaFleur right now is coming off his worst season of his career as a head coach. I've always questioned his leadership. I've always questioned whether or not he has his respect of his players. Last year, it felt like he lost the locker room a little bit. He lost the identity and the fight to the superstar drama of Aaron Rodgers. He wasn't quite able to get these young guys up to speed fast enough. He's going to have a large task in front of him with a young quarterback, a young receiving core. He's going to have to do it. And I think Matt LaFleur is a good offensive schemer. I think he's a good offensive coach. I question his overall vision as a head coach. The offensive line, I think, is absolutely fantastic. You could argue it's top 5. You could argue it's top 3. I rank them number 7. I think they're a better unit in terms of the sum of their parts than they are in individuals. Like, they always just seem to play well within that scheme. I love their depth on the offensive line. I think it's one of the deepest offensive lines in football. If David Bakhtiari is fully healthy, this line will dominate people. And they will be able to run the ball and push you around. And that will really, really help Jordan Love in his first year. The offense, I ranked at number 25. They have a lot of uncertainty. Now, I honestly ranked this a while ago. If I were ranking it now, I'd try to find a way to push them up. Based on what I've seen from the preseason, I think they have enough. In terms of Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Reed, Musgrave, Jones, and Dillon, I think they have enough. But there's big question marks. They're all young, and none of them are 100% confirmed good players. I do believe Watson is going to be a very good player. I actually like Romeo Doubs quite a bit. Luke Musgrave looks like a freak of an athlete, and we know that Aaron Jones is a stud. But there's still a lot of questions here. Still a lot of questions, especially with the skill group. Then you look at the roster rank. I have them at number 13. They have so much talent on defense that I think people overlook now. Last year, it was last year, guys, when we thought that the Packers had one of the most talented, best defenses in football. Do we just forget that we were saying this? And now they get back Rashawn Gary. They draft Lucas Van Ness in the first round. They have Kenny Clark. They have Devondre Campbell. They have Quay Walker. They have Devontae Wyatt. They have Preston Smith. They have Jair Alexander. That's not even including the offensive talent they possess. Secondary, I have them at 20. They lose Adrian Amos. Big veteran loss for the communication of the secondary. But they still got a good corner group. And I think Darnell Savage needs to have a big year. That's for sure. Defensive line is a good unit, and they have the potential to be better than their ranking at 13. The defense at number 19. Despite the talent, the scheme has been underwhelming. Joe Barry has been underwhelming. I'm surprised he still has a job. He needs to do it this year. It needs to happen. And for this team to be as good as I think they can be, they need to have at least an average defense. So the Packers, my ultimate projection for them is going to be determined by the offense, the young offense. I could see them surprising a lot of people. I think Jordan Love is going to be very efficient. I think he's going to protect the ball. I think he's going to wow people and shock people with his athleticism, his arm strength, his ability to make tight window throws. And I think he's going to operate Matt LaFleur's system to a T. We've seen that throughout his game so far. Love the offensive line. Elgton Jenkins is a standout for me at left guard. Christian Watson, man, can't wait. Luke Musgrave, look for him to have a big impact. And Reed is another guy that I know a lot of people like coming into the NFL. Defensively, this is the unit that could be the X factor. If this team wants to win the division, this defense has to be a top 10 defense in football. And they have the talent to do it. But it's a matter of working within the system and their coaching getting the most out of it. Alexander, Douglas, Nixon at corner. You're also missing their former first-round pick, who currently, I believe, is on IR or something. I'm not exactly sure. Smith, good number 2 pass rusher. Gary, an absolute stud, top 10 edge player in the NFL. Wyatt and Clark. Van Ness, not even on the Dan depth chart. Not even there. All right? Walker, Campbell, at linebacker. Really good combo, and I feel like Quay Walker had a good rookie year. I think he can have a great sophomore year. I wouldn't be shocked if he evolved into one of the best linebackers in football in year 2. That is the defense. Packers fans, let me know what you think. Where's the area that really needs to prove themselves this year for you guys to get back to the playoffs? Last year, you were close. If you beat the Lions, you have a chance, right? You ultimately lost to the Lions. Last year was a fiasco. It was a disaster. Rodgers got in his own way. He was high on psychedelics. And the young players, they didn't have the confidence of Aaron Rodgers. I think it will be a little bit different this year. I think the Packers are going to make the playoffs at 8-9. I think they're going to make the playoffs. With a losing record, I could see them being 9-8 as well. So just throwing that out there. But I have the Packers as the 7th team. The last wild card in the NFC. Going 8-9. Their ceiling, 11-6. If Jordan Love is just that dude. If the defense plays top 10. If Christian Watson's as good as I think he is. If Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon keep pounding that rock. This can be a very good team and actually win the division. Their floor is 5-12. If Jordan Love is not the guy that I think he is. If Christian Watson is not the guy I think he is. If the offensive line sees injuries. If the defense is once again an underwhelming Joe Barry fiasco. Disaster. They could be 5-12. But if I'm a betting man, which you know I am, I'm betting the over on the Green Bay Packers. I think they'll make the playoffs. I got them as the number 7 wild card team, which means that I have the Detroit Lions winning the NFC North, restoring the roar in 2023 will be Dan Campbell, Jared Goff, and my guy, Jahmyr Gibbs. Look out for him. Big season coming from Jahmyr Gibbs. But the expectations for the Lions are unlike the Packers. The Packers, everyone thinks they're not going to be any good. Most people think, no Aaron Rodgers, no good. For the Lions, they got all the pressure in the world to win this division. Everybody, their mom, their cat, their dog, their grandma, their grandpa, their uncle, their nephew, their cousin, their next door neighbor, the neighbor after that, the neighbor after that, the guy that mows the lawn, the local mailman, the local mailman's daughter, the local mailman's son. They all think the Detroit Lions are going to restore the roar. They all think the Detroit Lions are going to win this division. But I think all of those people are correct. Why? It really comes down to this for me. Lions were a good team last year. If I'm not mistaken, in their last 10, they won 8. 8 out of the last 10. They're hot. They finished that season hot. They built culture. They built something that I think lasts. I think it's sticky. They improved in a lot of areas. They improved at running back, especially with Jahmyr Gibbs. Montgomery for Williams, it is what it is. It's pretty close, but they improved on defense. At linebacker with Jack Campbell. They improved at safety. They improved at corner. They improved this roster. They kept the same staff intact. Ben Johnson still there. Going to work off what happened, what was successful last year. And that is exactly why I think the Lions will win the division. I think they have the best offense. And I think their ability at the line of scrimmage, overpowering people, winning their matchups at the line of scrimmage, similar to a Philadelphia, will really help them dominate games and give them the edge against many opponents. Jared Goff is a serviceable, good quarterback. Amon-Ra is a stud of a wide receiver that could lead the NFL in catches. Jahmyr Gibbs is a missing explosive piece that they didn't have last year. What they hoped DeAndre Swift would be. And maybe Jameson Williams helps out. But I view the Lions as a team because of that offense. Let's take a look at these rankings. 14th quarterback for Jared Goff. Lions fans want me to put him in the top 10. It's not happening. I'm sorry. Jared Goff, though, you have to admit, you have to say this about him. When he has a good play caller, when he has a good offensive line, when he has a decent enough weapon group, the guy can make it happen. The guy can put up numbers. The guy can lead a good offense. And he's done it more often than not in his career when supported by decent talent. The coach, I have Dan Campbell at 19. I'm not a big believer in him from a schematic standpoint or a game management standpoint, but I love the bravado. I love the energy. I love the passion. But I will say, Ben Johnson is the superstar of this coaching staff. Offensive line, I rank them 5th. I think you could rank them as high as number 2 in the NFL. They have an awesome tackle duo. They have one of the best centers in football and a very solid guard duo as well. Vaitai is back. Hopefully Ragnow can stay healthy for a full season. The offense I rank inside the top 10. I put them at number 10. Part of it is because I don't see a lot in terms of receiving. Sam Laporta is a rookie tight end. I think he will be a good player, but I don't know right away. I think they're going to run the ball a lot early on in the season, utilize a lot of play action, spam Amon-Ra St. Brown. I do worry about the secondary receivers for this team when they need to pass the ball and teams are taking away St. Brown. How does that go? And that's kind of what's holding them back from being a top 7 offense in the NFL. Roster, number 15, pretty solid roster overall. I think in terms of the NFC, they're probably a top 3 or 4 roster. No, not 3. They're a top 5 roster in the NFC. They're top 15 overall. Secondary, 16th. Big time improvements at corner this year with Emmanuel Mosley coming to town, Cam Sutton coming to town, multiple draft picks on their way. The defensive line, I think, has some decent depth. There are questions at defensive tackle entering the year. Can they stabilize their run defense this season? And the defense I have at number 23, but that could improve. Let's take a look at the offense. Now, they have some issues up front right now with Vaitai. I'm not sure if he's going to be starting or not. But they got Graham Glasgow from Denver back in the fold. I think Graham Glasgow is a serviceable starter in the NFL. He's serviceable. You don't really want him to be a full-time starter, but he's a guy that in a pinch, solid starter. Sewell, Decker, they'll take care of business. Ragnow, monster. Gibbs and Montgomery, great combination. Gibbs is electric, quick, fast, vision, special playmaker in open space, great receiver. Montgomery is a grinder, a yards after contact guy. Reynolds and Jones, Marvin Jones Jr., who returns to Detroit after a stint with the Jaguars, for everyone out there that hates me saying that, is also on the depth chart. I'm not sure how much he has left, but he's there, and I know the fan base loves him. The defense, Walker and Joseph at safety. Low-key, pretty good tandem there. Joseph, after a rookie season, had a very strong showing in his rookie season. Can he continue that? Walker needs to consistently stay on the field, and that would be nice. Jack Campbell, my favorite linebacker in the draft. Anzalone, he's serviceable. The defensive line on the inside is a bit suspect, but I do like the edge position, and they've got pretty good depth in terms of rotation pass rushers as well. Sutton, Mosley, and CJ Gardner-Johnson should be the corners. Gardner-Johnson could play safety as well, but he's probably going to play more nickel. Brian Branch is also a solution at that position. The kid from Alabama, one of the top safeties in this year's class. So overall, man, the Lions have a lot of talent. I think they have a lot more than last year, honestly. And I think if they can continue that success offensively, like they did last year, and this defense can just get marginally better and just not be a disaster, play closer to how they played at the end of last year, I think this team could absolutely win this division, and they should be favored to win this division. They have the most well-rounded team, and I think we've seen it. So, the Lions, I have going 10-7, winning the division by 2 games, ceiling 11-6. But man, a double-digit win season for the Lions. When's the last time that happened? Ceiling 11-6. I don't think their ceiling or their floor is too crazy. Like, I don't think they have a big spectrum here. I feel like the Lions are going to be pretty consistently above average, but not a fantastic team this year. I view them as a team that should make the playoffs, that will make the playoffs, but not necessarily as a Super Bowl contender. I would bet the over 9.5 if I was a betting man, which you know I am. I have the Lions as the kings of not only the jungle, but the NFC North. My NFC North standings: the Lions at 10-7, the Packers as the number 7 seed in the NFC at 8-9, the Vikings regressing to 7-10. As much as I want the Vikings to still be good, because hey, I like Justin Jefferson in primetime football. I don't know about you, but I just don't think they have the defense. I don't think they're going to pull off the miracles they did last year. The Bears, I don't quite buy the Justin Fields hype machine. Call me crazy, call me whatever you want, call me a hater. I will believe it when I see it. You need to be able to throw the forward pass to win games in the NFL. That is my NFC North preview and my preview of each team within the division. If you enjoyed, don't forget to Gronk spike the like button. Let me know your predictions, guys, in the comments. Always love to see them. Subscribe if you haven't for more NFL division breakdowns. If you want to check out the rest of the NFC, make sure to check it out. If you're a Lions fan, you're wondering, who's going to make it as the 5 seed? Who's Mitch going to put us against? Check out the NFC East preview. That's a little hint. Also, I appreciate you. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Peace.